on here, could you start the recording, please? We are going to focus today on how to use OneDrive to organize your files personally. So today's session is about Office 365 and OneDrive. So if you are from an Office 365 school and you know you've got Office 365 and you're using it, you will have OneDrive. It's always part of the basic setup. If you are a Google school and you've got G Suite, you're more than welcome to be on today's call. You will have an equivalent of that in G Suite. If you want to see what's available in OneDrive, please, you are welcome to stay, and I'm more than happy to have you along. As far as today's session is concerned, hopefully you are all comfortable. While we're running through, please could you leave your cameras off if you're not participating. So sometimes I will ask you to unmute and ask me questions and so forth. Also, can you mute your mic? I know it's extremely busy at home. We're all distance working and we might have families around or things going on in the background. So having mics off helps to just concentrate on the session. We were going to put questions in the Microsoft form, but what we'll do if I reshare back over to OneDrive, back over to Teams, you can put your questions in the conversation on the side on the chat, and I can see some of you have been doing that already, so please keep putting your questions in there, and what I will do is I'll dip into those at the end and we can go back and answer anything that's arising, but otherwise we will hopefully pick up things in this session as we progress. The final thing to say is that the session will be recorded, as you've just heard. So if you do unmute your mic or you share your image on your camera, that will be recorded forever. And then that video will go onto our YouTube channel, which will be shared with all of our schools. So if you're not comfortable with that, then please don't open up your camera or your mic, or you can put something in the chat and I will talk to you over there. But just to reinforce, this will be recorded and the videos will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which will be available to everyone. So our agenda for today, so we're going to look exclusively at OneDrive. So it's personal and shared files. We're going to look at the comparison between two because people often have a question about what's the difference between them in Office 365. We'll then look at accessing files, managing files. We'll look at sharing files and the collaboration that's available by using them in OneDrive. And then we'll have a look at editing those files. And we'll have questions and answers at the end of the session. There isn't too much to go through in this session. It's going to be a shorter one than some of the previous ones, but actually it's quite vital for managing your documents in the cloud. So the first thing that I would say is people go, well, what is OneDrive? Think of OneDrive like an external hard drive or one of those USB sticks that we usually have, where you've got all of your storage for your folders and your files and your different types of documents, except it's in the cloud. By in the cloud, I mean that it's a Microsoft data center. That's what it's called, a data center, which is a big warehouse full of hard drives and servers, and your data goes up through the internet and it gets stored at Microsoft servers. Those Microsoft servers are very secure, and as long as you're using an Office 365 in what's called an education tenancy, in other words, an education version of Office 365, which your school should have, it's secure and it's GDPR compliant, and all of the data is stored inside the EU. And although we're not a member of the EU anymore, and that's another story, we are abiding by GDPR, and all of the data will be protected under GDPR. So you don't need to have any concerns about someone accessing your data or your data being lost. One thing to emphasize is just because your data is in your OneDrive, just like it being on a USB stick or an external hard drive, it is not backed up. It will be kept for 30 days if you accidentally delete it, but it is not backed up. So a lot of people tend to keep it in their OneDrive, work off their OneDrive and take a backup somewhere else. SharePoint is for communal documents. So SharePoint is like the school shared areas on your server. It's the whole school shared or teachers shared. And that's where you put files and folders that you want to be shared and edited by other people. So OneDrive is personal to you unless you invite somebody in, and we'll show you how to do that in a bit. But SharePoint is a communal area. So some schools are starting to use SharePoint instead of using the shared drives on their computer. But alongside that, another option for shared areas is Teams. And if you put files in the Files tab of Teams, which Teams we've covered extensively in previous webinars, which are available to watch on our YouTube channel, you can go in there and you can see the files that are shared in your team. So on the left of this picture, OneDrive, which we're going to focus on today, is personal files. Nobody gets to them. They are yours unless you want to share them with them. SharePoint and Teams are communal, shared files. Everyone can get in, anyone could edit, anyone could delete and modify. So you need to put the correct files in the correct places. We are, from this point onwards, going to focus on OneDrive only in this session. So with managing your files, we would, first of all, if you've ever come to OneDrive for the very first time, and maybe today is the first time you've gone in, you would see this. You would see a blank OneDrive. You probably get that little robot there saying, drag your files here or upload them. And that's what we're going to now show you in real time. So I'm going to show you how to get there if you're thinking, how on earth did Martin get across to OneDrive? Just going to jump out of that. And I'm going to go over here, and most people will either be using Outlook on their desktop or you'll be using Outlook. Outlook is the email part of Office 365. And you can get other apps in the app launcher in the top left-hand corner where you click those squares there. The app launcher opens up and in there will be OneDrive. And when you click on OneDrive, it will open up another tab and you can go to it. Some of you might be in this view when you arrive, depending on what your school has their landing page. So you might arrive here. If you arrive on this page, you would simply click OneDrive and it will open it up. So whichever way you go, whether it's from the app launcher, click OneDrive, or whether you arrive here and you click OneDrive, you will end up in a new tab and you will see your OneDrive. As I said, most of you, if you haven't used it before, would see that welcome picture with the robot. Otherwise, you'll see what you've done up to this point, and it might be folders, it might be a big list of files. But down the left hand side here, you've got several options. My files are exactly that. They are the files that you own, that only you can see, that no one else can get to, because your OneDrive is your OneDrive. It's inside of the account that your school has given you, and that's where you can securely keep all of your work. The beauty of OneDrive is that it's available from anywhere. So if you happen to be on a computer and you were lucky enough when everything's over to go to Australia and you logged in and you wanted to get to your work, it's there on the internet. It's available through a web browser because there's nothing else required here, just logging in through a web browser, whichever web browser you use, and all your files are there in your folders and you can do what you like with them online. So the beauty of it is you don't have to have your stick with you, you don't have to have your computer, your work is in the cloud. And we know it's stored securely. The next option down on the left after My Files is Recents. And Recents will be your most recently edited documents. So in here, you can see the day that I last accessed information and the name of the documents. If you quickly want to jump back to it, you click on it, it will open up in another tab in the relevant program or app, and you can carry on using it. Shared is when somebody has shared something with you. So you can share your files without having to attach them to an email and send them across directly from OneDrive. So these are files that somebody else has shared with me, and then I can see them. If someone shares a file with you, you need to be aware that if you open it up and edit it from the shared version, you are looking back across the internet into their OneDrive and you will edit the original version. So if you want to have a copy to keep for yourself, to modify, so maybe you're doing a job share and you're joint planning, if you don't want to modify your class teacher that you are paired up with planning, you tick it and then you copy it and you move it into your drive. So you can copy the link and move it over into your My Files, but don't edit their version. Otherwise they're going to lose all the work they've done. They'll probably cry or shout, whichever one they're going to incline to do. The recycle bin down at the bottom here is where your documents go, and by default they will go in there for 30 days, and you'll see the time counting down on the side. I haven't got anything in there at the moment. Name of the file, who it was owned by, and then it will just auto delete. So when I say it's not backed up, if you delete something, it's not gone straight away. It will always end up in the recycle bin for 30 days, and then you can choose to bring it back out of the recycle bin and restore it back into your files if you deleted it by mistake. If you don't realize in those 30 days and you haven't backed up your OneDrive, it will be permanently lost from your view. Administrators for your Office 365 in your school may be able to get it back, but there is no guarantee. So that's why I say you need to back up your Office 365, although it is all in the cloud and it's available from anywhere. It's not something that you can get back if you don't restore it after 30 days of being deleted. I can't emphasize that enough. It's no less perilous than keeping your information on a USB stick or a USB hard drive, because What you won't do is get it corrupted by a virus, or you won't snap the end of your USB stick off, because it's here forever. So in that way, it's a lot more secure. It's got Microsoft protection from an e-safety point of view, and it's in the cloud, so it's available from anywhere, but it's just a slightly different way of working. So that is the options on the side. Along the top, we'll cover the options here in a moment. So under New, you can create a folder in the cloud, so you can make folders directly in your OneDrive, or you can start different documents, and we'll look at those in a minute, or you can go to a link for a document too. The other way of getting stuff into your OneDrive, be it files or folders, is to use the upload button. So if I pressed upload folder, I could go to an area on my computer. So let's say I wanted to bring the Scratch folder in. I would simply press upload. I won't do it now because there's quite a bit in that folder. And then it would start uploading and it would appear here as a folder. I might want to go into one of the folders that I've already got. So I'm going to go into teaching. There's nothing in here at the moment. So another way to upload is to go in here to my downloads. There's the same Scratch folder. I am going to, let's say for the purpose of this, I'm going to upload privacy and security for a type of computer. I'm going to drag it in and let it go. And then all of a sudden you get the uploading up here at the top. It says it's uploading one item. Now this will depend on the speed of your broadband at home, but the minute it's uploaded, there is your document inside of your OneDrive and it's ready to use. That's a PDF, so I can't edit it, but I could view it. If I decided I wanted to upload a folder, same thing happens. I pick up the folder, I drag it over. It's got the plus copy button, and away I go. I'm not going to do that today because it will take a bit of time. You can also create documents here from Microsoft Office directly in the web versions of Office. So you don't even have to have Office installed on your computer, or you could be using this Office 365 on a computer other than a Microsoft computer that doesn't have Office installed on it. Well, it's not to worry, because you've got the versions of Word, Excel and PowerPoint available in the cloud. They have a majority of the frequently used functions available. However, they don't have as many features as the desktop installed version. So by the desktop installed version, I mean the versions that you would go to from the start menu, all the shortcuts on your desktop, and press Excel. If I wanted to create a new Word document, I simply click on Word. It opens it up as a tab in my web browser, and Microsoft opens up Word with all of the software I need as a tab in the web browser. Here I go. I've got the same tabs I would see on my desktop version. I've got Home, Insert, Layout, and References and Review. And I can just start typing on my document. So I'm going to say this is going to be subject meeting. And it's going to be for maths. And my agenda is review of last term. If I could spell this morning. You've got spell check available to you. So if I click on that and I want to go in, yeah, there's my spelling corrections straight away there. Might decide I want to format that. So just like you would have, I'll make it bold and I'm going to centralize it, or I'm going to tab it in. I'm going to centralize it there. So you've got all the features you would normally have in a desktop, but it's online. So this is all happening in a tab in your web browser. This isn't working off your computer. Unlike a document that's saved on your computer, you can do other things that are now amazing. So you don't need to shut down the document to rename it. I might click on document. There's the title, and I'm going to change that to maths meeting. And in real time, and I click out of it, that's renamed. And it's saved straight away to my OneDrive. If I'm finished with it, I don't need to go over here and do anything like save as. I could take a copy and download a copy to my computer if I wished, but I'm working out of my OneDrive, so I don't really need to do that anymore. I just work on it until I'm happy, and then I can close it down. Something you can do, although we're not showing it in today's session, is you want to open it up on your desktop. It's important you open it from the online version, and it will continue editing in the online version. You click open in desktop app, and I would need to be signed in, and I'm not signed in this morning because I signed out to do something else, but I'd click open, and then instead of getting that error message there, it would open up in my desktop version of Word, and I would be able to carry on editing exactly where I left off from the cloud, and all of my changes would save backwards to the cloud. There's two important things to stress there. you need to be using Office 2016 or Office 2019. And if you're not sure, get your Turn It On consultant to confirm for you. Or you need to be using the version of Office that you would have downloaded from here, Install Office, and you install Office from your school supplied email address. You can install Office on your school computer. If you're not using one of those latest versions and you're using an older version of Office, you can't edit offline, you can only edit online. But raise a support ticket for your Turn It On consultant and they will help you with that. So if I've finished editing my document, I'm going to click there, close that browser, and there's the document I was editing. It's saved straight away. So if I click on it again, it opens it up as a new tab and I'm exactly where I left off. If I then type a bit more, I'm going to say we did shape and measure, and that's what we covered last review of last term. Might want to put a bullet point in, so that's all there. All the tools you would have are there freely available. I'm closing it back down, but I don't need to worry about it because it's all automatically saved. If I wanted to have a new folder called Meeting Minutes in my teaching folder, I'm going to call it Meetings, press Create, and then I can drag my file into my folder and it will simply move over. And now that has gone inside of that folder. To navigate backwards and forwards up the top here, you've also got a bar that saves you having to press backwards in your browser and forwards in your browser. If I wanted to get back to the level above and get out of the folder called Meetings, I simply click Teaching, and there I'm back in there. If I went back in, you'll see Meetings appear. So it's like the path of where you've gone through to where you currently are with all the folders you've clicked through, and that's your almost your trail of breadcrumbs as to where you are with your OneDrive. If I want to get back to the very top level, I just click Files, or I could click My Files over there. So I've got a file called Administration, which is where I'm going to keep all my administration work. Maybe it's my reports that I'm writing, pastoral support for work I've got with pupils or students, intervention work, and in here I've got teaching. It's up to you which folders you have. It suits you. And instead of having to recreate it, if you've got a USB stick with it all on, just drag it over to your OneDrive. Word of warning, I do that a little bit at a time, because if you drag everything off of your stick or your external hard drive at once and it's uploading together, it can really cause your internet connection to slow down. So just do that in small chunks rather than all in one, unless you've got an amazing fiber broadband connection at home, and then you don't have to worry. Happy days. So if I went back into teaching and I said I was going into my meetings file, this is where OneDrive becomes a lot more powerful. So things like writing your reports, and you've got your head teacher who wants to write a comment, maybe you job share with another teacher in your class. Well, you no longer have to send a copy of this document as an attachment to an email. The person downloads it at the other end. They make their changes, they attach it, they send it back to you. So you get version 1 and version 2, and then someone has the horrible job of amalgamating. You can edit and collaborate together. So if I tick the side of my file, you'll notice that the ribbon along the top here changes. I'll untick again. So when it's not ticked, I've got the options to create a new file or folder. I can upload, or I can share, or I can copy the link. That one there syncs the files on your computer, which is another session entirely. It's a bit more technical, but you tick it and now you've got slightly different options. So you could download a copy there, you could delete it, you could rename it again, but you can do it in a document, or you can move it to somewhere else in your OneDrive. So if you want to move your files around, you can drag and drop them, or you can click that one and you can move them to different places in your OneDrive. I'm just going to come out of that. I'm going to share now. So you can share the file from within your OneDrive and invite people to come in and edit it. So the options that are really important to consider here, by default, it says anyone can edit. So if anyone happened to get that link, the address that's up here in the top in the URL, they would be able to get into your OneDrive and then be able to edit your file. I would urge you not to leave it as that default choice. If you click it, it opens up another hidden menu. So you can say people within your school. So instead of that weird name there, it would say your school name with this link. So that's if they've already got this link. People with existing access, if you want to limit it to people you've already shared this document with previously, but more than likely you're going to want specific people. So you click specific people and you've got even more control. You might want them just to be able to view it. In other words, read only. So if you untick allow editing, they'll be able to see the file you're sharing with them, but they won't be able to change it in any way. If you want to go one step further, you could even prevent them from downloading a copy. So if you slide that bar across, they're blocked from downloading, but you might not want to be so cruel. So you might want to leave that open. And in this instance, I'm going to say, well, I want them to edit this document jointly because in my subject meeting, I've got subject teachers I'm inviting. So I'm going to apply all those settings and they get raveled up into this top section here. If you change your mind, you can always click on it and go back in and change them again. And then I need to invite some people. So I'm going to use a colleague's email address. I'm going to use Daryl, who I work with at the company. So I've now invited him in. You'll be able to get the email addresses of people in your school. If it's been enabled, you can also invite guests from outside of your school, and you can add a message. So I might say, hello, Daryl. So this is a bit like sending an email message. Please, can you add agenda items for the meeting? And we'll put on there, thanks. Then the minute I press send, it will send Daryl an email. It will also send the document to his shared files in his OneDrive. So how it would look the other end, he would see something that would turn up here called meeting notes. I've got an undeliverable because that imaginary person isn't actually set up with email in this system, but you would get a delivered email. And then they would get an email in their inbox. When they click the link on their email, it takes them into their OneDrive and they can get the document. And they would also see it here in their shared documents list. You can't organize your shared documents list. It is just a constant stream in date order, if you've sifted them in date order, from when they were shared with you. In order to organize them, you need to take a copy and put them over here into My Files. But then you can collaborate online. So the beauty is, if I was in teaching and the meetings and I was back in that document and Daryl did log in, I would see up in the top bar up here, next to my name, it would say DS because it was Daryl and Daryl's name is Smith. And then I would see a little flag would pop up of a particular color and his initials would be next to it. And as Daryl typed in real time from his computer in his house, what he was typing would appear instantly online and save into the same document. You can have multiple people all working at once with the same share link, all in the same document. So this is also really powerful if you're sharing a document through Teams, maybe the class. You could have up to 50 people editing at once. You could have 30 pupils in a class. Not that you would, it would be a bit chaotic, all in there capturing ideas. But occasionally you might want to have a session where you are mind mapping something in your class. Well, you could just do that on the board. You could do it physically, but here we haven't got that luxury because we're distance learning. So you could do it through a document here where you've invited them and you've put it into the posts in your team. And that's something we covered in a previous webinar. The ability to stop sharing is really easy. So if I was sharing it, it wouldn't say private. That's what tells you whether something is shared. That would change to shared. And you get a logo next to the side of here where it will show two people silhouetted next to each other. And you simply click the document here. And then you go over to the information on the side. And then down here, you go to manage access. And then you would remove access. At the moment, it's just me as the owner, but over here, you can see Daryl has got access. If I wanted to take his access away, I would press the cross on the corner and it would take his access away. So now that is just private to me. Or you can set expiry times as well, and you only can give them access for a certain amount of time. So as we said, your OneDrive is your personal area in the cloud. No one else can get to it unless you're inviting them in. Another way to share with people, it's not recommended, but you can do it, is you can get what's called a copy link. So if you click copy link, this is another option to share. It will give you a link. You press the copy button on the side. You will equally need to decide whether it's available for anyone or just available for specific people. And the same options, you can set an expiry date for the link. So after a week, the link is useless. It won't work anymore for the person you send it to. And then you could email them that link. I would urge you not to say anyone, because that gives anyone who opens up that link or gets a copy of that link an access into your OneDrive. And for safety reasons, you wouldn't want people dipping into documents that are in your OneDrive without your knowledge. You'd always see who'd edited them last and what they'd done. You can also open up previous versions of a document. So if you happen to make a mistake, you can click on here. You can go down the side, and then had we been doing some more work, there'll be an option in here where you can get to previous versions and you can see what's going on and you can get back to a previous version. You can also see, for instance, in here, the 5 versions, who's viewed over a week. So it gives you some information on your file. So you can get back, if someone's edited over the top of something, you can get back to another version from a week ago. It will keep it in there for 30 days. As far as the areas we were going to cover in our meeting, let me jump back up to my presentation. We have covered everything that we were going to talk about today. We now have got personal files in OneDrive, shared files go elsewhere. If you've got a large number of shared files, they shouldn't be going in OneDrive. Your school needs to either use their server shared areas, which they've got traditionally, or they need to look at using a team. Accessing files, well, you know how to access them personally, and you know how to give other people access. You know how to manage them, you know how to share, and you know how to edit on online web apps. One last thing I will tell you before I take questions, if I go back over to my OneDrive, your OneDrive will hold any type of file you wish. So you might be a school that uses smart boards, so you'd be able to put smart notebook files in, or maybe you've got Promethean and you'd be able to put a Active Inspire file in here. It will store them, but on the online version, when you try and open them, if they're not a Microsoft file format, you will need to download and edit them. A separate discussion to get around that is to have these files from the clouds synced to your computer, and then you would be able to open this up like a folder on your computer, and you wouldn't need to download and upload, and that gets around it. But that's a technical setup, and if you need to know that, raise a ticket for your Turn It On consultant and they will change that for you. But natively being able to open up files and edit them online, they need to be one of the Microsoft formats here. Otherwise, you'll get a message saying that it's a format that's not recognized in OneDrive and that you need to download it and find a program that's installed on your computer as a program that's in the hard drive of your computer to edit that file. Today we've focused on using OneDrive online. There is a whole separate story of using OneDrive online and also locally on your computer, which is achieved through that sync link there, but there's a bit of technical setup to do in order to use that. At that point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go and see if there's any questions in the chat on the side, but also if you want to unmute your mic and ask any questions, I'm more than happy to go through them now. So opportunity to you, over to you. If you want to share any ideas you've got because you've been using your OneDrive in a particular way, also we'd love to hear from you in that respect. So I'm going to hand over to everyone in the session now. I can hear someone. Someone sounds a bit Dalek-like, but talk and we'll see what we get to. Paul, I don't know if anyone else in the conversation got that. Romy, if you got that clearly, can you unmute and convey what was said? Paul, I only got fragments of that. Is there any opportunity? I know it's a faff. Would you be able to put it into the chat on the side so I can pick it up from there? Unless Romy heard it clearly. I got quite a lot of distortion in only every fourth or fifth word. Sorry. No, Romy didn't get it either. The joys of distance learning and broadband. Sorry, Paul. Okay, Paul, I can see that you're going to type it in on the side there. As soon as it comes up, Paul, I will answer it. Is anybody else in the meantime got another question where Paul just has a moment to type that in for us? No other questions? Wow. Don't be shy. Don't be scared. We're very friendly, very approachable. We're happy to answer anything to do with OneDrive and the use of OneDrive. For those people that have got a computer at home, you can still save stuff locally on your computer, or you might have a remote connection across the internet to the server. But at the same time, you can also save in OneDrive. It tends to be easy if you decide to adopt one or the other, and that might in the end be a whole school decision that your school thinks, well, I'm not going to have shared areas on the computer, or I'm not going to have personal storage of files on the computer on the server or the computer, and we're going to put it all in OneDrive for you. It tends to be that people are thinking about that now as that comes more available. Paul, does sharing and simultaneous editing of work in the same way as a doc share library in office.com, i.e., yeah, it does work the same way. So if you're in office.com, the share link works in exactly the same way, Paul. So as long as you've sent the share link and it's to the specific person, they will be able to get the same level of access, and they will be able to then edit in the online suite of software, and there'll be no problems whatsoever. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Well, I won't keep talking for the sake of it. Oh, there might be one here. No, all good. Thank you. I'm going to stay on here for a little bit as people drop off the call. But again, thank you for joining us today. We weren't quite sure what the uptake was going to be because we know people are more familiar with OneDrive than anything else, but we also appreciate not everyone's using it. So thank you. Stay safe. And we will be on future webinars this week. We won't have one on Friday because it's bank holiday, but we'll be back again the week after. We have one on Wednesday for Google and G Suite. We look forward to seeing you then. So I'll mute my mic, but I will be here if you want to ask anything.